Alright, we're gonna try to recap the previous episode. Here we go.
Last time on Nightbane, the Skylings voted to leave Lightlark / not fight in the war. I guess that's a very bad thing. In the past, Isla damseled herself again, and Grimm rescued her. Back in the present, Isla went and did some magical mining, and then had a nonsense strategy meeting. In the past, Isla and Oro faced off against the world's sleepiest dragon, and came up with the world's stupidest plan to beat a bunch of traps. I'm not kidding, they didn't think about this for 2 seconds. Back in the present, Isla had a tantrum in her ex-bestie's house and found a MacGuffin item that's clearly for the next book. In the past, Grimm and Isla continued with their worst plan in the world for dealing with traps. In the present, Isla got a saddle for her giant cat, and back in the past, Isla went to Grimm's sexy dance party and made him jealous.
Y'all, I can feel my brain leaking out of my ears just trying to explain that.
Hello and welcome back. Do you like my outfit? It is kind of lazy and kind of thrown together, but Giorgio is here. I don't know who I am because I don't really like any of the characters in this book, except Cleo, but I've already done Cleo. So I had to be somebody else. But maybe I am Cleo. Maybe I am like vacation Cleo. The Cleo who has buggered off and is now able to just like enjoy herself and just dress a little bit cute maybe. We will see. I still had that in my ear. So perhaps this is a Cleo who is enjoying her vacation time. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to tolerate this wig. I'm going to try to do at least one chapter for you in the wig before I have to rip it off of my head. And obviously, it's not in the best shape. I don't wear my wigs very often, and I definitely don't know how to take care of them, so I do need my glasses, though. There we go. I'm educated, Cleo. I can see myself now. That helps. I am educated, Cleo. Bookish, Cleo. Alrighty, let's go. We have like 80 pages of this to read, but they're kind of short pages, so we should, I hope, fly through this. Try to end this today. We'll see how we do. Pray for us, alright? It's the before times. So we cut to a time when she is sleeping and then something like thuds on her floor and she wakes up and it's Grimm. And we're doing the trope where the hot enemy shows up on your doorstep and is like injured and is like, it's his turn to be like, I didn't know where else to go, because the author is reusing tropes at this point. I normally would be eating this bullshit up, like this is normally my jam, but like it's so poorly done. It is just proof for all of us that you cannot just use tropes, you have to put in some effort. So Grimm is injured this time in a different way than usual because, as we established, he can withstand like a lot. Like he can take 12 arrows and still be going strong. So this time the injuries are like weird burn marks. But she's having to cut him out of his clothes. Ooh. If this book wasn't such a disaster, this might be like a sexy moment. Oh, we have a couple more tropes here. Okay. So first we have the barely conscious character says the other character's name, that's one. And then the second one is that he says Isla instead of Heart Eater because like he always calls her Heart Eater, and this time he used her real name. So like that's 2 tropes for the price of 1. It is a good thing that her like mentors do not matter to this story at all. Like if they knew what she was doing, she must have like so much time away from them because they've never come close to catching her out and about at night. Like this is only half of what she's doing because she also goes to see her best friend Celeste. Like not in this book. All we care about are the Grimm moments in this book. But during this time she would also be seeing Celeste. So like she's away from home more than she's home. And we're supposed to feel sorry for her for having spent her life inside the snow globe, but this girl is just off doing shit all the time. But she teleports them back to his room because the author got sick of the scene where she's like healing him up, and I'm sure he's gonna be fine. She did use all of her wildling elixir though. Uh-oh. Yep, of course he's healed, and he wakes up and he's like, you healed me, and she's like, you healed me too. These 2 pieces of paper are in love with each other. We get some indication, finally, maybe, yes, please, I'm begging, that Grimm has like enemies to fight. So she's like, what could have done this to you? Like you have your powers, you're so badass. And he's like, well, the things that I'm fighting are like immune to my powers. So she's like, what could he be going up against? And you recall that I was curious if we were going to do anything with the plot point that Grimm is like keeping something stronger at bay. And maybe that's what it is. Or there are just monsters around. You know, there were just monsters around sometimes that we didn't mention in book 1. And we just have to get over that. Astra is just dropping more lore, and this book cannot handle more lore. This book is so bloated. It's like a balloon that is overfilled. And if she tries to add more anything at this point, it's just gonna burst. Like, the balloon had burst actually a while ago. It's just fragments of balloon laying on the carpet. And she's still trying to pile things onto the remains of the balloon. So, apparently... Why? So, apparently... the Drex are enemies that have been, like, coming through, like, cracks in the earth, like, again, like a Marvel movie. But it turns out, why, that they were actually once people. They used to be this army that his, like, grandfather created to be super powerful, but his grandfather, like, created an invincible army, and this is all that's left of them. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we adding on more lore? Like, we don't need to know where the Drex come from. Just say that they're monsters that come out of a hole in the ground and they're really hard to beat. Like, why do we need to add these layers of, oh yeah, and my ancestor made an invincible army and this is what's left of them? Like, we keep trying to do too many things, Alex. Pick a couple things, write one book with those things, and then you can write more books. Like, you can write as many fantasy books as you want to. Like, there are elements in my fantasy books that I'm saving for future fantasy books. Not everything has to include everything. You don't have to dump all of your ideas into a single book or 2-book series. I don't know if this is getting a 3rd book. I'd be very surprised if it is. And apparently the special sword that he's looking for helps him control the Drek army and also make new Drex somehow. I still cannot get over the fact that they're called Drex. So why is Grimm the only one looking for the sword? Like, maybe he's the only one who knows about it. That's possible. But why wouldn't he tell, like, Oro about the sword? Because the rules of the sword are that you can't use nightshade powers near the sword. But Oro could use any of his powers, any of his other powers, to get the sword. So, like, if Grimm... Like, if I was Isla, I'd be asking this question. Hey, Grimm, if your goal is to protect everyone, including Lightlark, from these Drex rising up again, and yes, your great-grandfather, whatever, invented them, but now they're out of control, and the sword can control them, and if you are not lying to me, if you're telling me the truth, that the only reason you want the sword is to protect everyone else, tell Oro to get the sword. Right now, Oro's over here believing that Grimm is the only thing standing between him and, like, these Drex, apparently. Like, that was the big thing. A bunch of monsters coming out of a hole in the ground. I get that Grimm and Oro are not supposed to like each other, but wouldn't that be a more interesting book? Where Grimm had to come to Oro and be like, hey, I can't touch the sword, but you can. And then they go off in this whole buddy comedy. I would read it, quite frankly. I would read it. Instead, he's like, I need Isla for some reason. And it's not for her wildling powers because she's never asked to use them. He never goes, hey, can you use vines to grab the sword? Never. So, like, why would she be the right choice? Other than the fact that he probably knows that she doesn't have any powers and he just hasn't told her that. And she's too dumb to wonder. Because he controls curses, so he certainly knows that she's not cursed. So she asks Grimm about his mother for some reason. I have no idea why. She just brings it up. And he's like, oh, I don't know who my mother is. And Isla's like, oh, did she die? And he's like, no, in our society, you're not supposed, there's no such thing as, like, couples. Everybody is supposed to have sex with one person and then move on to the next person. Nobody stays together and has sex with the same person more than once. Because love is a weakness. Yep, we're doing that. We're doing that trope. If we were exploring things like, could platonic love still be strong enough? Could familial love still be strong? I would be much happier, personally, in myself, if we were doing that. She realizes that Grimm must be trying to have a kid. Otherwise, why would he have that, like, lineup of random women that she wound up in before? And he's like, yep, because he thinks that he's gonna lose the war against the Drex, and he better have a kid. Even though we have established that once you have a kid, you, like, start to age and your powers start to, like, leach away. So he's making himself weaker just so he can have a child who will be weak and vulnerable for a long time. You know, children take a while to grow up. I don't know, none of this is a good plan. 0% of this is a good plan. But I suppose I shouldn't be surprised about the planning abilities of the guy who thought that the best way to deal with traps was to just run through them. Grimm shrugged a single shoulder. take a drink. So yeah, they just have a romantic moment where he's like, I don't believe in love. And that's the end of that chapter. So let's get on to the next one. Let's just keep chugging. I'm probably going to take the wig off. I'm sorry for anyone who loves the wig, but it's itchy and uncomfortable and overstimulating. But hey, I wore it for one chapter like I promised. All right, I'm back. Sans wig. I just have it in like a wig bag. That's why it's in such bad shape. I need those like little wig heads. We have a whole costume room now. I should get some so I can put my wigs on it so they stay in slightly better condition. Anyway, this chapter is called Loyalty. But now Isla knows what the sword does because she had the dream. So now she's like, Oro. Fortunately, she's going to tell him this right away. Oro, I know what the sword does. Maybe we should have been looking for the sword the whole time. When she found out that Grimm was looking for it in her dream, she probably should have been like, hey, Oro, we should maybe also look for the sword. Because she doesn't know whether she and Grimm got it for him. I'm going to assume that they did, but like we don't know that for sure. Just like reading this, her quick explanation out loud. Like I want Alex Astor to read this out loud to herself and just listen to how silly it sounds. Now I know that this is a fantasy book and sometimes you got silly stuff, but like just think about these books. Think about book one and then this book and all of the things that have been going on, and then just internalize Drex used to be people. Cronin made a sword that controls them so he can make more. I believe Grimm now has that sword. It's so much silliness. I feel like I'm describing a dream. You know, in a dream where just weird shit just happens and it's logical because it's in a dream, but once you're outside of the dream, you're like, yeah, and then it turned out that we could all ballroom dance in space. But it made perfect sense in the dream. That's the vibe of everything that's happening in this book at this point. Azul is still here, even though his people said he cannot fight. He's still hanging out. So she still has her gay bestie. And he points out the very thing that I said. He's like, but wait, you don't have any memories of actually finding the sword. We don't know for sure that Grimm has it. Thank you, Azul. But they all laugh Azul down, and they're like, well, clearly he has the sword, because when the Drex came out of the ground, they flew off to his island immediately. He must be calling to them. And I'm like, or they went to attack him. You have no idea. You're just guessing.
Hello, cutie.
Hello. I abandoned the wig pretty much immediately. It was very itchy and overstimulating. Oh no. So we have a council meeting which lasts about a page and a half. And Enya, the firebender, is like, she makes herself some fire wings for some reason. It's a metaphor for a phoenix, whatever. It's very clumsy. And she's like, we can't surrender. Like, we have to fight even if he has an invincible army of Drex. And Isla's like, yeah. And it says, she was right about something else. They were desperate. Which meant Isla was about to make a very bad decision. Isla has made nothing but very bad decisions for this entire book and the previous. So, like, this is just business as usual. No need to warn us. We already knew she was gonna do that. Isla goes back to the snake woman. This is her bad decision, apparently. And she's like, listen, snake lady, I need your help. And you need to call up all of the other ancient creatures as well. Once again, Isla is looking to have someone else do the legwork for her because she can't be arsed. So Isla's like, listen, snake lady, she's gonna have a heart-to-heart with the snake lady. She's like, I know you're an outcast and you feel like no one likes you, but I'm an outcast too. And so I will fight with you and I will keep the faith with you, and when this is all over, you will have a place on Wild Isle and you won't have to hide again. Which is like awfully bold of her to assert, because what if the snake lady was like, cool, but I need to eat people. So are your wildlings gonna be okay with me occasionally eating one of them? Isla has asked no clarifying questions. She's just like, I'm an outcast too, which is completely untrue. She's hanging out with the rulers. She's being treated like the other rulers. In fact, she's being given more respect than a lot of the other rulers are getting. And she's like, but I'm an outcast. But thank goodness the serpent is like, no. Because, yeah, it's just a pretty speech. It's just like, we're both outcasts and you can come live on my island when this is done if you don't die in battle. But Isla is not deterred. She's gonna pester every magical creature in this place until she can convince one of them that they should fight for her. Wow. Okay. I thought that we were just leading into her starting her trying to recruit other creatures, but listen to I'm just gonna read you. I'm gonna read you her entire recruitment segment here. The whole thing. Isla didn't let the rejection stop her. There were other creatures on the island. She went to each isle and sought them out. Remlar was right. Most, when she showed them who she was and what she was, bowed their heads and joined her. That is potentially an entire book, or at least an entire subplots, full of information. 4 sentences? 3 sentences? That is the epitome of laziness. All this time, all we had to do was just write a paragraph of where Isla went and talked to all of these creatures off page, and most of them bent the knee because she's so cool. Their loyalty was to her. Fucking prove it. Like, this is the most, I have never wanted to shout, prove it at a book so aggressively as I do this one. I cannot keep getting snagged on all of this bullshit, but like, this is supreme laziness. Aster, I think Aster should be ashamed of herself for publishing this. Honestly, I am not just annoyed by this book, I am mad at this book. Fourth Wing might have been boring and just another bog standard romantasy that you can find a million of on the shelf and is popular for no good reason. But at least it was a book. It did things that books do. Were they things that I enjoyed? No, but they were things that books do. This book has stopped even following the rules of good storytelling. We've completely abandoned it. We've gone off any semblance of rails. And I know what you might be saying, well, sometimes books disobey the rules, but you have to understand the rules to disobey them. I know it's a cliche, but it's 100% true. And I don't think that Alex Aster understands, or at this point is even trying. I think she doesn't care. I don't think she gave a fuck about Nightbane. I don't think she gave a fuck about book 2. She got all the money and success that she could ever need from Lightlark. Like, she's already a rich kid. So Lightlark just got her a bunch of followers and adulation. Why would she need to even care about this thing? It's like she sneezed this book out. And as someone who puts a lot of effort and a lot of love into my books, I'm mad. I'm incensed. Now, some of you might still go, well, maybe she did care about it, Julian. Maybe she really did care. And I'm like, you don't care about a book and write an entire subplot in 3 sentences. Isla just won off page. She just recruited a bunch of monsters off. We don't even know what the monsters are. She just recruited them off page so they can show up in the final battle. That is not the action of somebody who cares about their story. I'm sorry, it's not. Alex Aster doesn't give a fuck about this book. She's not advertising it. We went on her TikTok. We saw that she's not advertising it. She's just showing us that it's in stores. She's not saying what it's about. She's not talking about it. She's not proud of it. This isn't an achievement. This isn't something from her heart. This is because she had an obligation to the publishers. They told her they wanted 2 books at least. She wrote a second one. I don't know. I'm like way madder than I thought I would be about this book. But it is insulting to all of us authors who put in so much effort. I put so much effort into my books. And I know you might read them and be like, wow, this is your best effort. But this is what you get when you don't put effort in. My God. Okay, I need to keep moving. We're going to another grim chapter. I am infuriated. I have gotten, because I just did my nails for this, so I've gotten nail polish marks on the book, and I don't care. After I'm finished with this book, I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I might, throw it in the garbage. It is an abomination. I hate it. Let's go to the next chapter. All right, I hope you all are enjoying my raging because it's probably not going to stop anytime soon. But I need to pace myself here. Back in the before times. So Grimm can cast complicated illusions apparently. That's another thing that he can do. He can do everything. So he created a hologram of the dragon because they've gotten through, he has bullet sponged up every other trap and they've gotten through to the dragon who's just been asleep this whole time. But the dragon is in the way of the sword. They can't get around the dragon to get to the sword, so they need to figure out another way. So Grimm is wait, I have an idea, and he teleports her to a meadow full of very familiar looking flowers. And she's like, wait, these are the wildling elixir flowers. And he's like, yeah, I think they're the same flower. These are what we call Nightbane. We make drugs out of it. You make healing elixirs out of it. Isla is shooketh, though. She is absolutely shooketh. So Grimm thinks that the only reason that it's different where they are is because when nightlings handle something, it turns bad and evil. And when the wildlings do it, it becomes a healing thing. He doesn't say anything like, oh, we distill the nectar in a certain way and you guys use the petals or something like that. No, it's just when we do it, it turns bad, and when you do it, it turns healing. But of course, it's just here to be a metaphor. both poison and remedy, opposites like she and Grimm, the ruler of life and the ruler of shadows. Not even going to call him the ruler of death, just the ruler of shadows. So Isla, ever the shrewd businesswoman, is like, we need a lot of these flowers because apparently they don't grow very well on Wildling Isle. Apparently they grow real fucking well here. So she's like, we need these flowers. We will use these flowers to make healing elixirs for you, and then in exchange, we need hearts. So you give us hearts from all of the bad people that you have here, because you have so many bad people. So, like, you've got hearts to spare, obviously. And she says, and other stuff I can't think of right now that we need. Grimm goes for it. He shakes on this amazing, flawless bargain. So after they shake on it, they portal back to her room, and once again, they are almost gonna get into a sexy time scene. He's leaning over her, he's like looming over her. I picture him very much like bent like freaking cartoon Dracula over top of her, and he's about to kiss her when all of a sudden he's like he senses a squirrel or something, and one of his holes in the ground where the monsters come out of has reopened, and he's got to go deal with that, so he portals away. I'm just ready for them to fucking have sex already. There's so little book. And we're supposed to believe that by the end of this book, they're, like, very much in love? Sure. But alright, next chapter! Alright, here we go. We're going. We're plowing through this book. Let's go. The next chapter is called Gone. So she wakes up next to Oro, and Oro basically only exists now for her to explain things to from her dreams. So we experience her dreams, and then we cut out of them so she can explain it to Oro and everyone else, and then we go back to her dreams. So she explains the Nightbane magical healing elixir situation. But before she can get too much into detail, because that would cause Alex Astor to have to write anything in detail, she gets a message from her giant cat that their village is under attack. Because I guess the cat can do that. It turns out, though, they portal to the village and everything is fine. And they portal around trying to figure out what happened. They can't find anything. And then finally they figure out that all of the healing elixirs that they had made have gone missing, have been stolen. Which honestly does make me cackle. Because, yeah, Grimm can teleport. Grimm can teleport and be invisible. So he could just show up and steal all of their supplies. Grimm left her a note, though. Of course he did. And I just, like, what is his game? It's undoubtedly very stupid. So Isla has an emotional breakdown and, like, destroys a bunch of stuff in her anger, like Kylo Ren. And then that's the end of the chapter. And we gotta cut to the before times again. We're just going. We're flying. These chapters are so short. Like, my camera bookmarks roughly every 15 minutes. And I bet you, like, I'm getting through some of these before it even bookmarks. So we cut straight back to where Isla is waiting for Grimm because he portaled away from her right before their kiss. And she's like, I'm not going to wait for him anymore. So she steals some more healing elixir, and then she goes to his room where she proceeds to wait for him. So she just didn't want to wait for him in her room. But then he shows up, and I think that this author is once again cribbing from Howl's Moving Castle, because this scene where he comes in, he's looking very, very scary and very demonic, quote unquote. And I think the vibe we're going for is Howl in his bird form when Sophie like finds him and he's looking all big and scary, but she like, you know, nestles into his feathers or whatever and calms down his beast side. If I had to bet money, I would say that Alex Astor is a fan of Howl's Moving Castle. I'm also a fan of Howl's Moving Castle, and I think if you like the vibes of Howl's Moving Castle, you'll probably like Adventurer Mage. But anyway, carrying on. She watches him shed his armor to the man underneath, and he's so sexy. And he's fine, by the way, completely uninjured. Oh, something I wanted to talk about. Let's take a little break here. Something I want to talk about is, I have mentioned many times that this author does not describe things well, and it's gotten worse in book 2. It was bad in book 1, but it's worse in book 2. And somebody mentioned that she is one of those people who cannot envision things in their mind. I'm the opposite of that. It's more than a movie when I envision things while I'm writing. It is like 3D, and I can smell the smells and feel the breeze. Whatever, but she isn't. And that can be a real challenge when you're a writer. It can be. I personally think that you cannot escape writing descriptions of things entirely as a writer. Like, there are ways to mitigate it, but you can't completely escape it. So it is an extra challenge if that's something that you have and also you want to write books. Now, one of the ways that you can mitigate it is to not write things like fantasy. Now that sucks, and I don't want to tell you that if you're quote-unquote blind in the mind that you can't write fantasy or you shouldn't write fantasy, but if you have a desire to write something besides fantasy, like contemporary, I would encourage you to do that, because with contemporary, you're not required to describe quite as many things, because you're not introducing your reader to quite so many new things in contemporary most of the time. That's one thing that you can do to mitigate it. But let's say you do want to write fantasy. Let's say you really do want to write fantasy, you have an idea for a fantasy book, but you know of yourself, this is just something to know about yourself. It's best as a writer if you know what your weaknesses are. That doesn't make you a bad writer, it just means that you know the things that you need help with. So you know that you are bad at writing description, or you don't know when to put description, you don't know when it feels natural, you don't know how much or what to do because it doesn't come naturally to you. So this is where, and I swear I'm not doing this just to advertise myself, this is where something like a developmental editor, especially one that works the way I do, can come in handy. I have a couple of clients that I have worked with who are the same as Alex Astor, who cannot envision things. And so their books were like just mostly dialogue, just very, very straightforward and very plain. And they also felt paced much too quickly because there's no pausing for description of anything. And so one thing that I did for them is that I would point out, here's some places where readers are going to expect a description. Here's some elements that they probably want you to describe. If you know that about yourself, that is something that you can seek out in a developmental editor. You can tell your developmental editor, hey, this is something that I'm not as good at. I know that about myself. Can you please point out to me places where I need more description? I need some description. A reader would expect description. That's something that you can do when you work with somebody to make your book better. And Alex could definitely benefit from that, if she cared about that sort of thing, which I don't think that she does, but if she did, if she's watching this, which she is not, Alex, I really recommend that you find a developmental editor to work with who will help you with the deficit that you have in your writing of descriptions of place, of descriptions of people, of descriptions of things happening. She describes people the most, but like places and big fantastical sites that deserve big, beautiful description, she doesn't do. And that's why. But knowing that about yourself, either don't write fantasy, that's one way you can get out of it, or have somebody help you. Some of these physical descriptions, though, his shoulders were wide. My goodness, so evocative. Oh, okay. So he is sporting a visible boner. Like, she's thinking lustily about him, and then she's like, also, I can see that he's interested in me as well. By the way, she also just happens to be wearing a slinky red dress. This author has really decided that Isla has big titties. I think just in this book. Maybe those are her titties in the thorns at the beginning of each chapter, because I don't remember it being mentioned in the last book that she was spilling out of her outfits, but this is, I think, the second or third time that we have mentioned that she is very voluminous up top. Grimm also has really, really cold skin because he's Edward Cullen. So she's feeling him up, and then she wonders why he's not reciprocating, because obviously he's into it. He has a boner. That's the only way that you can tell if a guy is interested in you. So she remembers, oh yeah, that's right. He said that if he was ever going to touch me, I would have to beg. So she begs. Such a weird, I mean, I've already given it awkward sex scene, but this would give it awkward sex scene, for sure. Mention again that her boobs are basically just spilling over the top of her nightdress. This line is also definitely supposed to just be quoted. He says, I like this dress, but it's in my way. And then he tears the dress off of her. The author feels like we might not understand that unless she explains it. So it says, he ripped it right down the center. Stitches broke, fabric was torn. Yeah, that's what ripped means. But he kept going until her nightdress was nothing more than shreds of fabric on the floor. So he didn't just tear it down the middle and free her from the dress. He shredded it like a cat. And she stood naked in front of him. She's probably been standing there naked for a while as he meticulously shreds her dress. I don't understand what this means. I don't know if this is worthy of a Mr. Yuck, but if you're very, very sensitive, maybe don't listen to this. She stood and groaned as his calluses stroked against the softest and hardest parts of her skin. What are the softest and hardest parts of her? Like, what would you say is the hardest part of your skin overall? I don't know. We can infer what the softest is, but what's the hardest part? She had never felt so sensitive, all her senses zeroing in. Sensitive senses, indeed. This chapter is just a sex scene, so I don't know if we're actually going to get to the sex. So far, it's just mostly like exploring each other's bodies with various things, hands, mouths, etc. And I would not be surprised if we fade to black before we actually get the sex, but I guess that this book had to do, I mean, Fourth Wing did it, so we have to have at least a chapter that's just sex. And because this is for young adults, we have to say things like, his fingers finally touched her right there. He is like all about her pleasure. And obviously, the guy being more focused on her pleasure is the fantasy. But like, he is like not even interested in anything for himself. He's like, I'm gonna focus on you. I am totally into this moment with you. He's like this gruff, broody villain guy, but of course he would be extremely giving in the bedroom. Obviously. She moans his name, and his name is Grim, and I'm just trying to think of a sexy way to say the word grim. It's not working. We don't even get to see her orgasm, but he is giving her a hand job. They always start out with the hand job. Thank goodness for that chapter. She's gonna come back to Oro, and he's gonna be like, what did you learn? And she's gonna be like, he's very giving in the bedroom. I feel like that's super important for the war effort. Let's go! Chapter whatever, reunion. So we cut to Isla, who has decided that after that dream, she needs to talk to Grim. ASAP, I wonder why. So she goes to her old bedroom, because now remember she's in Oro's room, and she presses her life alert necklace, her booty call necklace that she's had the whole time.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay? I'm calling for help right now.
Grim is like super happy and excited to see her. He sweeps her up into his arms, and she almost just goes with it, because after all, she did just have a really horny dream about him. But then she's like, wait a minute, this is the bad guy. Oh, apparently, okay, this is something I didn't get. And maybe I'm reading too fast. This could be my fault completely, so factor this in. But they went to the villages when Grim had attacked and stole, like, all of their potion. They went to the villages and everything was quiet. Like, there was no one around. And I took that to mean that everyone was just asleep. But I guess it meant that everyone was gone. And so when he said that he took something with him, he didn't just mean the potions, he meant he took all of her people as well. I completely didn't get that. This author, like, if you read too fast, you will miss a detail because she doesn't beleaguer any points ever. So it's probably my fault. But Isla's like, how did you make all my people go with you? And he's like, I didn't make them. They wanted to come with me. It turns out that he has Poppy and Tara. I was wondering if they were ever going to come back up. I thought it entirely possible that we never think about them again. But he has them. And her people obviously like Poppy and Tara better than her, why wouldn't they? So they went to go be with Poppy and Tara instead. Apparently one of the things that Grim did for her people is take away their memories of all of the hearts that they ate while they were cursed. I mean, if they asked him to. They did ask him to. Okay, I should have just kept reading. They asked him to. So he mentions how fucking vague she was when they made that first deal. So he's like, you said Nightling potion and whatever else your people wanted / needed. So I gave them a better home, and I took away the memories they didn't want anymore. You're welcome. She's like, you called up those Drex out of the earth, and he's like, no, Drex just come out of the earth sometimes. It's a thing that they do. And she's like, but they flew to your home, and he's like, yeah, because they sense their own kind over there, probably. I didn't call them. So again, just Isla just making loads of assumptions, never asking questions, and now Grim. She had the way to contact Grim this entire time, like she's been wearing it. To call him to her at any point, to actually have like a diplomatic conversation and call off the war and see if she's right about any of this stuff. And instead she gets some weird prophecy that no one questions, and they assume that Grim is coming to attack her. No matter how much he tries to reason with her that some big evil is coming and he's just trying to protect everyone by having them come to him. Again, why couldn't anyone just like talk about this? We don't talk. Talking is for the weak. Discussing things, not allowed. Something dangerous is coming and lots of people are gonna die, so he's just trying to protect people. And Isla's like, nope, you're lying. take off this life alert necklace, I'm not interested anymore. And he's like, but you must not remember a key thing, because otherwise you would know why I can't take it off. But he says, it's because I care about you that I'm doing this, and then he teleports away. Okay. Remlar was having tea in his hive. This bug man is just fucking having tea. He's got a little bitty teacup and a saucer. I'm just picturing this blue bug man having high tea in the middle of the night when Isla portals in. So she tells Remlar that she wants him to teach her how to cut off someone's power through a love bond. I didn't know that was a thing. Oh my goodness. The ferrets are in their room and they are fucking throwing a party. So if you hear any noises, that's them. I would have them out, but I have COVID still, and ferrets can get COVID from people, so I'm limiting my exposure to them. Obviously, we cut away from her training session with Remlar. We don't want to see any of that. That's interesting. And we cut back to afterward, back at the war table with everybody. She summoned everyone. Zed says, the person who's hell-bent on destroying us all. Again, hell-bent implies the existence of hell, or at least something similar in this world, because otherwise it wouldn't be in their vernacular. What does it mean to them? What is hell to these people? So Isla is like, Grim is too powerful. He doesn't even really need an army to kill us all, which is true, because he can be anywhere and just wipe out great swaths of everything with his death magic. So she's like, when he was with me, I could still feel that he still loves me, so we're still connected. So I can cut off his powers and give everyone a chance to kill him. It's like kryptonite for Superman. Somebody points out that the Nightshades would all be killed if they killed Grim, but then someone else is like, well, if Isla has hold of his powers while we kill him, then she can probably just get his powers as well and transfer all of Nightshade under her command as well. This dumbass could have 3 nations to rule. I don't think that's how it's gonna go down, but like, yeah, okay, good. Give her another people to rule over. Again, I cannot help but feel that if she and Grim actually had like a real conversation, just like sat down and had a conversation about any of their motivations at any time, that all of this would be hashed out. Like, she's convinced that he's coming to do war. He is like trying to save people, he claims. Like, just fucking call him back to this war council right here, right now. Sit down and hash everything out. I bet you we could figure this whole situation out, but that would require thoughtfulness. Isla has decided, though, the only answer is to kill Grim, and she's gonna do it. Remlar taught her the basics of taking power. Yes, of course he did, off page. It took seconds. It took as long as it took to write that sentence. Also, she's very trusting of a weird blue bug man to, like, teach her the right things. She's still, though, like, okay, even though she's totally got a plan, she's figured out what she's gonna do, she's gonna kill Grim, she's learned how to do it. Oh my goodness, Nigel. She's like, I still need more information. I still need more memories for some reason. And she's like, I want to get to the end of that horny dream. So she's talking to Remlar, and they're just kind of going back and forth. Nothing terribly important in my opinion. But he's like an ageless being. And they're talking about their power and how they view their power. And she's like, are you truly Nightshade? And he's like, yeah, technically. But he says, we, the ancient creatures, remain, and some of us remember. And immediately my brain went,
You see, Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I told you all that just so I could get to that joke. And we're back in the before times. Before she passed out, Remlar said that the thing he remembers is home, and then she's out, back to the before times. I should probably empty the memory card, sorry Nigel, and then we'll get back onto our quest, our mission, our one goal in life, finishing Nightbane.
While Julian is emptying the memory card, hey, let's look at some fun fan art that was made for this channel. This creator is a longtime friend of the channel, and we were talking at one point about how I would love a picture of Grim and Xaden together because they are in fact the same person. And I initially pitched the idea of them like doing the pointing at each other like the Spider-Man thing, but it looks like the creator took it in a different direction and made it more like they're going like, "Ay, ay," as they're both broody boys together on their broody boy tour. I'm sure they'll hang out together and talk about all of their trauma, TM, and techniques to maximize their broodiness.
Alright, memory card cleared, let's go! We make the Skylings, the one ruled by the gay guy, seem so frivolous. So she and Grim finish practicing their dragon outsmarting technique, and they're like, we need a break, let's go to the Skyling lands, where they're doing like this celebration for, let's see, what is it? to celebrate the new season of hot air balloons being unveiled. That's all the Skylings could possibly care about, the latest hot air balloons. They're just such a silly little nation. Yeah, they're just the party nation. Like, they go there and everybody's wearing glitter and just, like, having a great time. Because they're the ones whose ruler is openly gay. Is this in daytime or nighttime? Because, like, I'm assuming it's nighttime, but, like, her guardians don't seem to care about her or what she does or where she goes. She has obtained a blue dress so she blends in and has decorated herself with glitter. And it's just like, okay, she doesn't even have guardians at this point, I'm convinced. Now, this chapter we're just watching her and Grimm go on a date. Ooh, egg confirmed. So they're watching the hot air balloons, of course, and he's like, pick a favorite one, and she chooses one that looks like a giant blue egg. He teleports them into her favorite hot air balloon, where apparently there's no like hot air balloon pilot in here. They're just free to just hop into the basket of this hot air balloon. Also, conveniently, there's a bottle of wine inside the balloon. Maybe he portaled the people who were in this balloon out and just like left them somewhere with a lot of questions. So they start to do it in the hot air balloon, but then she's like, I'm not an exhibitionist. Please portal us to my room, and he does. Somehow he grabs, she's on top of him right now, she's straddling him. Somehow he grabs her butt and lifts her off of him. And I'm just picturing him doing so by grabbing her, like, hunks of her ass and like, lifting her off with that. That sounds so unpleasant and painful, but like we're given no other explanation. For some reason, he's like, even though he's gotten her all hot and bothered, he's like, not tonight. What are we waiting for? And that's the end of that. Oh, we're going straight into another before chapter. Okay, breaking our own rules. Whoa. I mean, why don't we just have a time jump? I don't know, except for that this author is allergic to chapters that are longer than 5 pages, but we'll get into it. I'm starting to wonder if we didn't have sex in the previous chapter because Alex Astor was already bored of her own chapter and was just like, and then they didn't have sex. I don't feel like writing that. Let's go. Dragon time.
Let's all go to Dragonland.
He's supposed to distract the dragon, and then she's gonna go in and get the sword. By the way, the dragon apparently is super easy to wake up, except for when they were going through all of its traps. So basically they were save scrumming. So apparently the dragon does reset the traps, so there's that. They would figure out how to beat one trap, by getting Grimm stabbed very much, and then go home and heal, and then the next time they come in, they could avoid that trap and get hit by the next trap. Still the stupidest plan ever. Isla has totally had a metal shield with her this entire time. We've given up. We've given up trying to write a sensical book, but she uses it to block some of the, stuff that's coming at her. So she finds the sword in a pile of relics, quote unquote. So, if she was smart, she would glance around and maybe grab a few more of these things because, what if the Heart of Lightlark is in here? What if the Bond Breaker is in here? Make you mean it missed her? A spear flew, aimed at her side, but she was faster. She ducked, missing it. No, she ducked and it missed her. She didn't miss the spear. A wind blasts at her and she goes tumbling, but she's still within 1 step of the sword. We were establishing she was 2 steps away, and then the wind happened and she managed to get 1 more step forward, and then the wind stopped and she went tumbling. It legitimately says went tumbling, doesn't tell us which direction, but she's still only 1 step away from the sword. Her hand reached for the sword. She reached for the sword. Why is it her hand, doing it on its own? Girl, you're so dumb. She doesn't have her star stick ready. This whole time she should have had it ready, but she's got it sheathed. And the dragon has come back, and so as she's reaching for the sword, the dragon breathes fire on her, and she knows she won't be able to grab her star stick fast enough to portal out. And I'm like, well, why isn't it already in your hand, you dumb bitch? But just at the last second, Grimm uses his shadow powers to save her and shield her from the dragon fire, and the sword flees because she didn't grab it, apparently. She was so close to grabbing it and she didn't grab it. Now we just cut to her back in her room when they're sitting around rehashing the events. So, of course, we're saying all of the lines, that you'd expect. She's like, I thought you wanted the sword. I thought your realm was the most important thing in the world to you. And he's like, I have a new most important thing in the world to me. I don't want to go after the sword anymore. Why? Because the cost is too great. The sword could have gone anywhere. You don't know where it is, but it could have landed in a field of daisies and be super easy to get now. Oh, Grimm shrugged a single shoulder, take a drink. So he's saying all of the things that he, like, knows about her and appreciates about her. And he says that you hate the cold and love to dance and frown when you lie. If she hates the cold, why is she so into him? Because we keep hearing about how, like, icy to the touch she is. I have not been pointing out every time this author uses puddle, but she still loves it. It's her favorite word. This is just a lovey-dovey scene where they're talking about how much they love and appreciate each other, blah, blah, blah. I want to be the person you glare at, Heart Eater. I want to be the only person you insult. I want to be the only name you speak in your sleep. Can we please get to the whatever bonkers ending this author has in store for us? So she's about to tell him that she doesn't have any powers, and of course he knows already. Okay, that's gotta be inconvenient. So they're, confessing love, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with you, Heart. And so she, like, goes on tiptoe and kisses him, and then she collapses to her knees after that. And he still somehow has his hands on her face. So he's standing and he's very tall. She went on tiptoe, he's got her face. So when she fell to her knees, he must have been like, whoa! And then, like, he still manages to kiss her from a standing position. We haven't been told that he knelt down. How? He must be bent in half, completely in half, to kiss her in this position. It's gotta look so absurd. So she's like, I want to go all the way with you, Grimm, because apparently they haven't yet. And he's like, I'm not gentle. And then she's like, can you just be gentle for me? And he's like, yes.
Also, there's not really a good time to mention this, so I'll mention it here. Isla spent a huge portion of book 1 worried about whether people will figure out that she doesn't have powers. She's like doing all of these things. She's doing the most to make sure no one figures out that she doesn't have powers. She did not worry about that. Like, she maybe once at the beginning of this book, she was like, oh no, he'll find out I don't have powers. And then, like, she completely forgot about it. So apparently she also must have known that Grimm knew she didn't have any powers, because she was not interested even slightly in pretending that she had them around Grimm. And Grimm knew she didn't have any, so he never asked her to use them, and she never wondered why.
The shadows in her room melted across the floor, puddling. This is just another sexy scene. He rips this dress off of her as well, although no mention is made of whether he shreds it into tiny little pieces first. Of course, he has an enormous manhood, but we can't describe that because this is a YA book, so we're just dancing around all of these things. Like, this is one case where the author not describing things is actually to her advantage. And of course, hers is the best. What can I say that won't get me demonetized? His manhood is enormous, and her womanhood is the best womanhood he's ever put his manhood into. How's that? I swear, the author is spending more time on these sexy scenes than she has on any single point of this book. Nothing has ever gotten this much attention. I said that I thought Aster was somebody who wanted to write fantasy that also had romance in it, and not, like, romance that also is wearing a fantasy hat, like Fourth Wing, but now I'm starting to wonder, with how much attention she's giving to this sex scene, is she doing it because she really, really just wants to write sex scenes, or is she doing it because she feels like she has to, like, her book won't sell unless there's a lengthy sex scene in it? I don't know which. He keeps saying things like this, too. I haven't been pointing it out every time, but as they're doing it, he says, you're both a curse and a cure. I think that's supposed to be, like, a theme in this book. But like everything here, it is poorly done. We still don't get even one of her orgasms, though. I guess that's another difference with young adult books. We just cut away. He is inside of her, but we still, like, don't get a lot of description, and we cut away before either of them actually, like, climaxes. We just cut to after. Is that really a fade to black, like, sex scene if we watch, like, half of the sex? My gosh, this chapter just keeps going like fucking hell. I'm so tired of these two people. Also, at this time I remind you that she is like 18 years old and he is over 500 years old. So, just putting that out there. Also, even though she was a virgin and this was her first time, it's almost like it's his first time because this is the first time he's ever felt this way during it. So it's like they're both virgins. Once again, I think it's that fantasy as well of the guy having had many partners and then telling you that you're the best, that he's never had love or sex like yours before. So they do it again, and we cut away before they even really get started this time. We time jump to the next time they get together and they're kissing again. We're like speed running their relationship. Like, believe me, we're getting to the end of the book. Believe me, they were really, really in love, okay? They were so inseparably in love. Okay, Edward Cullen. He calls her, he says, "You are my Nightbane," which we all know is basically heroin. So he's basically doing the Edward Cullen's, "You are my own personal brand of heroin." So Isla's like, again, we're just throwing elements into this book. At least we're done with the sex scene. Isla's like, "Come here, Grim, I have a special surprise for you." And she portals them to where she had found, when the dragon flew away, she went back to the cave and found that the dragon had abandoned its baby. So they have a little bitty baby dragon now. Alex, what? Did you hear that the next big popular book was going to be a dragon book and you were like, uh-oh, I better put a dragon in my book ASAP this far into the book? Oh my god. So now Grim has a pet baby dragon, and that's just the end of that chapter. Like, what? Why? I swear she just used Mad Libs for this. Did she use AI? Was this book written by AI? I almost feel like AI could do a better job. All right, on to the next chapter. We're getting so close, y'all. We're getting so close. On to the next chapter. And we're back. And after this chapter, I think I will go get a snack because I grow hungry from all of this nonsense. This chapter is called Forgive Me. So of course she thinks that Oro should hate her for having had a relationship with Grim before she had even met Oro. So are we saying that he should hate you for a previous relationship? That you're not in anymore, you are not with this person anymore, you're not having sex with this person anymore, but because you're having memories of a previous relationship, Oro should hate you? Therapy. Therapy. Oro's out here being the perfect man, though. She's like, what if we're moving too fast? What if I don't want the future that you want? And he's like, it's fine. I'm 500 years old. Like, if I have to wait a little bit longer for you to figure out what you want, cool. So they spent a little time being all ushy-gushy and like, oh, I love you, you changed my life, blah, blah, blah. Would have loved to see some of that. You know, why does he love her so much? He tells us that she's changed his life, but hey, at least it doesn't seem like we are doing the thing where Oro turns out to be the unsuitable partner. Because we barely, like, after halfway through this book, we barely gotten any of Oro. He's just perfect boyfriend all the way down. Again, I just don't feel like they have a whole lot of chemistry, a whole lot of romantic chemistry, but the book assures us that they do, and they are very much in love, thank you. But she is using this love moment to, like, reach for the bridge between them so she can practice for later when she's totally gonna kill Grim. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So after we have that lovey-dovey moment, where we reassure that they are the it couple, we again time jump to her. She decided to just, apropos of nothing, again, I have no idea what motivates this girl. She decided to go back to her castle and go to that vault that we remember exists sometimes, and she's gonna use all of her power to just force it open, I guess? Yeah, she uses her crown as the key again, but this time she uses her power to force the door open, and then she just does. And that's the end of the chapter. And we're back. This chapter is called Unlocked. I wonder why. But oh no, we finally get to see what's inside the vault, and it's empty! Okay, so she goes into the vault, and she can't find anything, and she's freaking out, and then all of a sudden, like, I guess she starts to collapse, and she hears Tara say, "Hello, little bird." Okay, I'm gonna assume, because she just randomly decided to go here. I have no idea why she decided now was the time to go open this vault, but she went, and she did it. And then Tara's here. I'm gonna assume that Tara had something set up to alert her when Isla opened the vault, and then, like, teleport there. Or was Tara just inside the vault? Was Tara sitting here invisible the entire time? Like, how did she know? Isla doesn't fall unconscious. I thought that's what she was going to do at first, but I think she was just really shocked to see her mentor there, and she's, like, yelling at her now. Like, you killed my parents, and you raised me like a lamb to slaughter to seduce the king, which I did eventually actually kind of do. So Tara is like, hey, I did this for our people. You know, I went with Nightling for our people, and Isla is not interested in listening to anything because that would be logical. Instead, she grabs, like, all of the trees and brings them down through the roof of the building and just, like, smashes into Tara. But Tara's, like, dodging and, like, evading and cutting all of Isla's branches and, like, mocking her at the same time. Like, your form is terrible, and I'm, like, kind of living for it. I'm so over Isla. She's such an idiot, and I just really want to know what everybody else is doing, because clearly they have a plan of some kind, and Isla's the only one running around here just like bumble fucking her way through life, doing whatever. We have another power tasted like blood. We have a lot of those lines that I think the author wants us to think are like very cool and like memorable. Power tastes like blood, blood tastes like power. You are my curse and my cure. Like, she wants this book to be quotable, I think. Once again, because both this book and the predecessor are made up entirely out of like aesthetics, I think she wants these quotes to, like, you know, when you're making your aesthetic board or whatever, you put like a quote in the middle. She wants these to be the quotes that go there. This action scene is as bare bones as everything else. It's just one character did this, the other character did this, she did this, she did that. Just like short, choppy sentences, as little detail as humanly possible to still get across what they're doing. So I guess maybe I've kind of gotten that vibe all along, but I wasn't sure. But I think we're setting Isla up to be the actual villain because she thinks she was the ruler. She was the ruler over everyone, not the other way around, not anymore. And I honestly don't know, because it's this book. I honestly don't know if we're supposed to be like, oh no, Isla's turning to the dark side, or we're supposed to be like, yeah, Isla, you're the ruler of everybody, yeah, badass moment. I have no idea what tone we're going for here. Isla was sent backward flying. Isla was sent flying backward. Why is the sentence arranged the way it is? Tara still beats her in a fight, even though Isla is like using her hatred now. Tara says, your emotions always were your greatest weakness. Okay, how were they her weakness before when she didn't even have powers? But Tara has beaten Isla. Isla is just laying on the floor. She's down and out. And Tara says, thank you for opening the portal for us. And then it says, Tara's words were a key unlocking a memory. As if we need to understand that the next chapter, which is titled Before, is going to be another memory. I don't know, maybe this chapter was moved from somewhere earlier in the story where we needed to understand that. But yeah, we're gonna go back in time. All right, let's do it. It's getting darker in here, so I opened my lens a little bit more. Hopefully that's working well. All right, to the before times. So we cut back to Isla, who's just sitting in her room, polishing her weapons, and then she just has, like, something is calling to her. She gets an inkling of something, and she follows it, and she goes out into the forest, and there is the sword that they were looking for.
You're kidding. What a crazy random happenstance.
So I'm assuming we're going to find out later that somebody put that there for her to find, or something like that.
Get used to disappointment.
Because otherwise we're legitimately saying that the author just got sick of trying to figure out how Isla was going to get the sword and 100% just handed it to her. It might as well have appeared in her bedroom. But she grabs it, of course, and she portals over to Grimm, and she's like, here you go. I hope you're enjoying your baby dragon that I gave you. Also, here's that sword you were looking for. So she just walked in and handed Grimm this sword that he's been looking for, and he's like, yeah, I have new lore for you, Isla. So, for some reason, again, we don't know why any character does anything. Like, why do they make the choices that they make? No idea. He's like, I have to tell you your backstory now. So, I somehow just remembered that I used to have a general, and I gave that general a star stick, and he disappeared. He was supposed to be helping me search for the sword, but instead he took the star stick and disappeared. And it turns out he was your dad. And it also turns out that he had a flare, even though it's rare for non-rulers to have flares. He totally had one. And his flare was that he's immune to curses, which means that you, his daughter, are immune to curses. And I'm like, Grimm, what? Where did this come from? Why?
This also means that Grimm is dating a friend of his kid, which is also creepy.
Grimm has just decided that he is just gonna fucking drop all of the lore for no goddamn reason right now. I don't understand his motivation. But he's like, okay, let me just explain everything to you now that you've brought me the sword, I guess. But she was like, why did your father want Lightlark? And he's like, well, actually, our people came from somewhere else, and Lightlark is like a mini version of that place where we came from. Not the other, okay, so there's Lightlark in the middle, and then they all have their little islands around Lightlark, which are mini versions of their mainland, but their mainland isn't even where they really came from. It's so goddamn confusing, and I don't know why we need this. But apparently they left that world, their home, which is a separate world, presumably another dimension, or maybe they came here in spaceships. Fucking, I don't care. Ancient aliens. But they came here, they left the world that they were previously in, and they came here to create a mini version of the world that they were previously in.
I would give anything if it turns out that the place where they came from is another dimension and that dimension is our world and that the people who came here and founded Lightlark were a bunch of edgy kids in their early teens, and that explains everything, the aesthetics, the little clubs of, the different nations, all of the story beats, everything would be explained if they were all just a bunch of edgy teenagers that came to another dimension where they could live to be 500 years old, but never mentally got past being like 14.
But I guess one of Grimm's ancestors wanted to go back, like he regretted his choices, but he couldn't because the portal to their old home world, which is like just a big version of this one, is underneath Lightlark. Also, it's implied that they colonized because like the ancient creatures, only the ancient creatures remember that time, and it's like, oh, okay, so you came here and you took all of their land, sounds about right, and just made a new version of the place where you came from after colonizing all of these creatures that already lived here's land. Great. Sure, why not? Why the fuck not? Might as well be what happened. The flare, I have the same flare as Cronin, portaling. The portal doesn't work on its own, it requires someone with my skill. Again, like, I just have to smile and nod and say sure to all of this, because there's no, like, logical reasoning. There's no feeling of, oh, obviously, or, oh, the pieces I've been missing all along. You just have to be like, whatever you say, Alex. At this point, whatever you say. You could tell me that this place was created by pink elephants from the sky, and I would just have to go, yep, the pink sky elephants. All hail the pink sky elephants. So, are the Drex, like, natives to this place? It seems like it. Like, maybe if you left, they could have their land back. I feel like, maybe. So everybody went to war over the portal. Some people wanted to go back home for some reason, and some people wanted to stay. But Grimm wants to stay on their stolen land. I'm assuming it's stolen land at this point. There's really no other explanation. So he wants to stay here, and he only wanted the sword to control the Drex. And I'm like, so the creatures that are coming up out of the ground, probably because you are now living on what used to be their home, is all I can assume. And I know we were told that his great-grandfather, like, created the Drex, but I'm dubious now.
And that's just the thing. We were told that his great-grandfather created the Drex out of people. They used to be people. We did not say what people.
Oh, and of course it turns out that Cleo also knows about the portal and she wants to use it for some reason. I do not understand. Oh, we have another contrivance. So many contrivances that the author just makes up. Just because we need more things like this. She wants more dramatic moments, so she makes up more bullshit. So I guess the sword, he can't just use the sword. The sword is cursed, and he needs to use her because she's immune to curses to break the curse on the sword, but it will kill her.
Is it supposed to be stupid?
And I understand that all things in books are made up, but also we should feel like they make sense within the world of the book. This book has lost all sensicalness eons ago. Illogical. Now, of course, that's why he asked for her help, because he needed her to break the curse on the sword, but oh, he never knew he would fall in love. Yeah, great, whatever. But before that, why couldn't he ask for help from somebody more useful? Couldn't he have asked Oro for help to get the sword? And then after that, just gone to Isla and been like, hey, I need your help, and I'm going to charm you with my wiles. He and Oro could have both come after Isla. Like, if the sword was important, which I feel like it is, they could have teamed up and just been like, hey, Isla, we're bigger and stronger than you. We need you to break this sword curse thing. But she's like, I am betrayed by you, Grimm. Go away. And so he does, but he's very sad about it. The next chapter is like a page long, so let's go. I'm so close to the end now. I'm like 20 pages away from the end, something like that. Several chapters, though, because there's a bunch of short, choppy chapters, because oh my god, I cannot imagine that anything could be wrapped up. There's just so much bullshit. But let's go. The next chapter is called Portal. So we cut to Oro found her. I guess Tara just left her in the Palace of Miros. Oro found her and he took her home to feed her broth and baby her. We remember that Ella exists. You remember Ella, I think. Was Ella? Ella was her servant from the first book. Ella made the soup herself. So once again, we have a chapter where Isla finds things out, and then we cut to a chapter where she goes back and tells everybody the stuff that she found out. Riveting. But that's what she's doing. She's like, I know the backstory now. Allow me to tell you it. So everybody here is like, we have no interest in leaving through the portal. Why would we ever leave? This place is the best. Sure, guys. And then they're like, we have to get to the portal before Grimm does. And she's like, oops, actually, I already opened it for him. That's the end of the chapter. All right, this chapter is called Fate Divided. And Isla goes to see the Oracle, who I thought that I just misunderstood. Like, I thought I read wrong, and Isla didn't have another prophecy from the Oracle coming. But she does. The Oracle says, you left it until the very last moment, didn't you? My very last prophecy, the most important yet, and you almost missed it. Alex asked her, did you forget until just exactly now that you had done that? This author cannot handle this many threads. So now we have the classic choose the light side or dark side moment, like Star Wars here. The Oracle's like, you have two paths before you. They are equal, like you're not leaning more towards one than the other, even though she very clearly is. But yes, it is 100% just light or dark, Oro or Grimm. Choose between your color-coded boyfriends. But of course now Isla doesn't want to kill either of them because now she has all her memories back of Grimm, so she's like, shoot, I have to kill one of my boys. I have to choose the renegade option or the paragon option. But that's basically all the Oracle had to say, and then she pieces out. Now we cut to her heroically riding along on her big cat as the battle is about to be joined. I'm still kind of confused. I'm sure there will be some sort of convoluted explanation for it, but I'm still confused why she thinks Grimm and his army are coming. Because Grimm keeps telling her that he doesn't want the portal. Cleo does. But unless Cleo is like controlling him somehow, then shouldn't it be Cleo's army who attacks, not Grimm's? Sure. Before Azul left, he created this like storm barrier over the island that, and I quote, contains a fence. He built a sky fence over the island so the Drex couldn't come in from above. That's always been a thing he could do. Oh, by the way, Isla has totally bonded with Enya, Oro's best friend. That's 100% a thing that has happened in this book. But she goes to check out their army, and she goes to where Oro is, and she gets off of her kitty cat. So, okay, one thing that's been bothering me, and I thought maybe it would be explained, but it hasn't been. The portal is underneath the Wildling Castle on the little Wildling mini island that is not part of Lightlark. Like, it is and it isn't. It's connected by a bridge. But we keep hearing that the portal was underneath Lightlark. But it's not. It's underneath that little island over there. And conveniently, once again, the author is using this device that she used in book 1. Conveniently, the only powers that can be used on that Wildling island are Wildling powers. Even though I don't think that's a rule on anybody else's islands. So Grimm cannot teleport there, even though Tara did? How did Tara get there, if Grimm can't teleport or portal there?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Maybe Tara was just sitting outside the door. But anyway, Tara's just like camped out there, just like waiting. She's just like cooking marshmallows over at the campfire, like, oh shit, there's Isla. That's my headcanon now. So she just covered it in poisonous plants, and they're still waiting to fight here on Lightlark. But why? So many questions. Cleo has an armada of ships. Cleo just could sail her ships over to that island while Isla and her people are busy fighting Grimm and the Drex on the mainland. And all she has to do is just cut the plants away using her ice powers and go and get to the portal. I'm coming up with strategies for you, Alex Astor. Why are we still fighting on the mainland? That's my question. There's nothing to defend here. The thing you're defending isn't even here. So Oro is acting very suspicious. He's definitely acting like a man who's gonna sacrifice himself for love. And Isla's like, uh-oh. This doesn't sound romantic. This sounds uncomfortable. So he's telling her that when all this is over, he's gonna take her to a beach and they're gonna have beach sex. And it says, she could see it so clearly, Oro pressing her against the sands, waves washing around them while he wrung pleasure from her the same way he had in their bedroom. Wringing pleasure from someone sounds uncomfortable. Doesn't sound like a good time. But, oh no, Grimm is here, and he brought his army. For some reason, he shows up exactly when he said he was going to. I still don't, I feel like I missed something. I don't understand why he actually did show up and bring an army. Now we have this amazing battle scene that another author could probably make really cool. But, once again, everything is just but Oro is in the air using all of his abilities, and she is on the ground riding her cool big cat using her abilities, and it's just superpowers flying every which way. Again, reminding me very much of Avengers Endgame. For a second, in this pitch battle, we think the kitty got hurt, but actually, no, he's fine. But of course, the fact that somebody could have harmed her kitty cat has made Isla very, very angry, and she's going to lose control of her powers. Lightlark's legion advanced from all sides. Again, I am convinced that this author has no idea what a legion is, but for some reason has decided that saying army is against the rules. The Vinderland people are here. I almost forgot that they were here. So far, we really don't need their help. Nearby, Remlar watched with curiosity, along with his people and the other night creatures she had recruited. Not even going to tell us what they are. They are such an afterthought. They could have been cut from this book so easily. For some reason, Cleo, which our Queen Cleo is here, everyone, thank you. She waited until the Nightshade forces were pretty much crushed before she decided to show up. I was really hoping that she wasn't here because she was taking my plan on board and going to find the portal herself. But no, she's here, and she rides in, of course, on a giant wave going over the top of all of their, thorn barriers and everything. Suddenly, Cleo was right in front of her. She wasn't wearing a dress. No, now she wore a fighting suit that covered every inch of her body except her hands and face. A fighting suit! Huh? Not a suit of armor, a fighting suit. I am definitely underdressed. I am picturing Cleo wearing a business suit for battle, her battle business attire. That's all. What is a fighting suit? That's all I can imagine, and I refuse to imagine anything else. Isla does notice that Cleo didn't kill the Lightlark soldiers when she attacked, she just froze them. Oh my god, really? This is what we're going with? This is what we're going with, Aster? I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it's the stupidest possible option, the most cliched thing. But she's like, Cleo, why are you doing this? Why do you want the portal? And Cleo's like, because I think that in the other world they have powers and I could resurrect my son. The son that we only heard about in this book is now Cleo's most important motivation in the whole wide world, for which she will do anything. Because it's the most cliched thing you could come up with. Of course she had a son, and of course she would do anything to try and resurrect him. What else could it possibly be? And of course, it's that whole cliche where Cleo, who was always a woman of her people and looked out for her people, she would kill them all just to resurrect her kid. Because, that's how moms are. Moms would sacrifice the planet to, not to even save their already alive child, to, resurrect their child who's died. That's all moms care about, really. Cleo is forgetting that if the world that they originally came from over however many hundreds of years ago is the same as Lightlark. Lightlark is a mini version of that. What if the same stupid shit or even stupider shit that happened at Lightlark happened back home too? You could get back home and find out that everybody there has some ridiculous curses on them that you now have to do some stupid rituals to solve, and you can't get your son back after all. Why would you assume that everything's just as it was left? Honestly, I feel like this is such a character assassination of Cleo. Granted, it's mostly the character that I made up for her in my head because she didn't really have one on the page, but still, I'm furious. I am furious that we are saying that because of this son that we only heard about one other time, Cleo would destroy and kill everyone else. So Isla and Enya work together to, stop Cleo, and they wrap vines around her arms and legs. And then it says, flowers bloomed on the restraints. Isla plucked one. So she's close enough to, pick a flower. Ooh, maybe Cleo was being smart. There's, a shred of hope for her character. Because Isla's like, okay, we have Cleo, but she had a legion, quote unquote. Where are they? Isla is too stupid to realize that they should be defending the thing that they're trying to defend, instead of sitting here on the mainland and assuming a bunch of thorns are going to be sufficient to protect the portal. For some reason, though, Grimm also waited until his people were mostly slaughtered to unleash the Drex, assuming it's him that's doing it. Isla breathed in and out, Right, good. Glad we established that. We have a moment with her bodyguards who are still here, apparently. One of the Drex knocks Isla off of her kitty, but they rescue her. Oh no, but one of them's been stabbed. Oh no, not that guy.
Oh no! There's Melanie. That's a shame, she was really nice.
And they don't have enough healing elixir anymore, so that guy dies. Oh, just so fucking tragic. For some reason, now Isla is completely depleted, even though we've seen her wield way more impressive power than this. And she just, like, collapses, and Lynx protects her with his body. Damn, the ending of this book is taking me way longer than I thought it would. I told Adam we could hang out later. Edna, he's still waiting. Sorry, honey. Oh, the snake lady showed up. Thank goodness. This is supposed to be a cool moment. I'm sure Isla decides to leave the battle because she wants to go talk to Grim, I guess. So she rides over to the bridge, I assume to Wild Isle, and then she touches her life alert necklace. And first a bunch of Grim soldiers show up, but then in a moment that I'm sure the author thought was very cool, Grim shows up and he's like, if you even think about touching her, I'll kill you. Hello, heart. Like, well, yeah, we knew it was going to be him. It was his life alert necklace. And, oh my god, like, we've got so few chapters, and we're supposed to resolve any of this bullshit. Alright, we're back to the before times. I don't know why we're still going back, but... Oh, there are gods, apparently. So Grim has come to make a love confession, and he's like, I have to go do a very dangerous battle, so if I die, I need to confess my love. And he says, the gods don't listen to people like me. A, who are the gods, and B, why wouldn't they listen to you? You're like an all-powerful ruler being. You're not just some nobody. And he says, you and me, we're infinite, which is, again, probably supposed to go on one of those aesthetic boards. And then he takes her star stick and leaves, and we're going to go back to the now times. I'm not even going to shut the camera off. Like, I've been bookmarking this to just keep track of everything, but these friggin' chapters are so short, I really don't need to. So we're back on the bridge with Isla and Grim. And then he says, Heart Eater, you and me were infinite. Like, a page after saying it in the past. Just in case you forgot. That's a special line that they have. Oro comes flying in to defend her like the white knight that he is, and now it's Grim versus Oro. Isla's not helping, by the way, although she does shout a behind you for Oro. She's just watching them fight.
Let them fight.
No, they're just fighting in the sky and blasting power at each other. Oro decides to finish it all off, even though he knows he can't kill Grim. Only Isla can kill Grim. But he decides his finishing move is gonna be a giant bolt of lightning. We cannot escape lightning. But at the last second, Grim does a switcheroo and uses his portaling abilities to replace himself with Oro, so Oro gets struck by his own giant lightning bolt.
Now you're thinking with portals.
Oro plummets to the earth, and Isla doesn't even do anything to soften his landing. She just watches him smack, and then she runs over. Again, she's not doing anything to defend him. Like, Grim is standing over Oro, and he's about to, like, kill him with shadows, and Oro has to defend his own ass with, like, another blast of fire. Isla can't even quick throw some kind of shield over him or anything. No. I can't believe she's still, like, deciding in her head, who do I kill, who do I kill? Miss Ma'am. Like, I get it. You had some amazing sex with Grim in the past, but you have not convinced me that you have any chemistry. And even though I don't think you have romantic chemistry with Oro, at least he's not an asshole who's trying to kill everyone. Just fucking kill Grim. And then we cut back to another memory. Let's go. Let's just keep going. We're going. The fact that these chapters were not numbered kind of threw me. I always overestimate how much I can read in any given time. The sun has been gone for a while now. So we had cut back to Isla in her room after Grim had left her, and she just, like, reaches out with her mind and finds him, because that's the thing that she can do. Yeah, she figured out how to use his powers in the past, even though she can't even use her own powers. I'm not even going to question how that works. I'm just going to say that sure, it does. So she finds Grim and then uses his powers to portal herself to him with the sword. But she portals to the battlefield where Grim is fighting all of the Drex as they just pour in like faceless villains in a Marvel movie. And he's the only one who can handle them. All of his other soldiers are just getting obliterated, but he's super, super powerful. So Grim looks at her and realizes that she must have used his power to teleport here because he took her star stick, and that means that she loves him. And so he's like gazing at her with love, and I'm like, okay, but wait, I'm doing math in my head. I've got that board behind me with all of the strings. Is Grim's flare that he can teleport, or is that a normal Nightshade power? Because if it's a normal Nightshade power, wouldn't she be able to use it because she's half Nightshade? Or can she not use her normal Nightshade powers because those are still blocked along with her Wildling powers because of MacGuffin? It's very confusing, and I don't know why I'm trying to understand it. But he takes it to mean that she clearly loves him because she used his powers to get here. But while he's staring at her with love in his eyes, one of the Drex stabs Grimm right through his chest, and Isla does the classic, no! And she grabs the sword and stabs it into the ground and just does something. Magic takes over so she can break the curse on it. Or something, I don't know. Or maybe she's just using Grimm's powers because shadows spread out from her and start killing everything. I don't know what's going on. The catchphrase that Grimm came up with like 2 chapters ago, you and me were infinite, now it's like her mantra. Oh, I guess she can use her Wildling powers now. For some reason, because she sends her Wildling powers across the thread that bound them together. It's the last thing she did as she stumbled and fell. I don't understand anything of what's going on, and I don't think it matters. Like, ultimately, in the end of things, understanding this book, not going to be something that I ever really truly do. And then I guess she died. Chapter cuts off there. I'm going to stop and then start again, and we'll get a couple more chapters because there's 2 that are just like back-to-back 1 page long. Alright, this chapter is called Sacrifice. We're hopping back and forth between times. I hope it's not too confusing for anybody who's trying to follow. Wow. These 2 men are like... Isla, this little person, is the center of their entire universes, and it is so unhealthy. She managed to grab hold of Grimm's powers, and he realizes that she's done it, but she feels really bad, of course, so she's crying, and he is looking sad at her, not because she has stolen his powers, she can tell. She can tell that he's sad because she's sad. He's upset that she's crying. Because these men, their only thought in the world is for this dumb little bitch. But oh no, Grimm has another ace up his sleeve. He's like, Oro is about to stab him in the throat, and Grimm goes, if I die, she dies. Feels like something he could have led with, but yeah, apparently they're like linked together. Let's cut back to the before times and find out how and why. There's an implication that she went to the afterlife and came back, but we're not going to explore that. It just says she had been somewhere else, and now she was back. I'm almost done.
Ponies put away.
Thanks, babe. I'm so close. I'm so close.
You can do it.
I'm like 10 pages away or less. So she wakes up in Grimm's arms, and she's like, how? And he doesn't tell her because we go back to the next chapter, which is called The Missing Piece. You bound her to you, Oro said, voice shaking with anger. She remembered now, Grimm's explanation in the past. She knew binding someone to oneself meant sharing a life, not just powers, but life itself. Oh my god, this is such, like, a ridiculous plot point to bring up, like, less than 10 pages from the end of the book. But apparently he did a Voldemort, and now her soul is linked to his, and neither of them can die, or the other one dies. So I guess this is only a temporary solution, according to Oro. I don't know why that is. But Grimm is like, but the other world, offers resurrection. Everybody thinks that you can do resurrection in the other world. Why they think that? Fuck if I know. But they're like, we have to get to the other world because everybody has like one person that they would destroy the world for. And I get that that's the fantasy, but it's stupid. Like, there are a lot of people that I love in my life very much with my whole heart, but if I had the power to destroy the entire world to save that person, I'm sorry. That person's gotta go. Yep, I guess love does make you weak. So Isla is like, okay, cool, the solution is to kill me. Duh, kill me so Grimm can die. And Oro won't do it, and she says, Enya was right. Isla had made him weak. Stupid love always weakening people, and yet at the same time making them so determined to kill everyone else in the world so they can resurrect the one person that they love. So, okay, we should have questioned the vision. I don't know why nobody did. But it turns out the vision that she had was actually a memory of when she had unleashed her shadow powers back when she was fighting on Grimm's Island. She was fighting the Drex, but there was also a village full of women and children and probably orphans who had just been given puppies nearby. And the thing that she thought was a vision of Grimm killing a bunch of people was actually her killing all of those people. Why did Oro just automatically assume that she had had a vision and that vision was correct when she told him this? Why did she automatically assume that? We're trying to, like, speed run emotional beats here. Like, the author is clearly just done with this book and we're just plowing through. But, of course, Isla's having a breakdown, and Oro's like, you're not a monster. You're not defined by one mistake. But, of course, she's going, I'm a monster. I killed all those children in this really, really specific scenario that probably would never happen again. There's only one thing for it. Oro and Grimm are going to have to just accept they're going to have to be in a polyamorous relationship to take care of their poor emotional little girlfriend. That's all there is to it. Technically, girlie, you didn't even use your powers to kill those children. You used Grimm's. She says that someday she's going to lose control of her emotions and she's going to kill the women and children and orphans again. More women, children, and orphans and puppies. But, like, back then, again, very, very specific situation, and she didn't even use her own powers. She stole Grimm's, which she had never practiced with and had no experience with. Oh my god, it just keeps getting stupider! This is like a soap opera. Okay, story time. I have to tell you. So my bestie really used to like watching soap operas when she was a kid. And there was one soap opera that she told me about. I mean, I don't even remember which show it was. But there was a character who had gone blind and then got her sight back just in time to like go to the window in time to see her lover having an affair. But then, oops, her sight went away again right before she saw her lover having an affair. And I feel like I'm in that soap opera where just like we keep dropping just bombshells one after another because we got to get to the end of the episode. Tune in next week for the next thrilling installment, because now Grimm is all like, let go of my wife. I just love to imagine, please, help me imagine this. Cleo, I imagine, has gotten free of her bonds by this time because Isla's off having an emotional breakdown. And I just imagine Cleo and her people and the wildlings just all walking over to where the portal is because Isla's over here just having one soap opera reveal after another expositioned at her as she lays there freaking out, and Cleo's just like, la-di-da-di-da. Oh my god, thank goodness that Isla and Oro are busy having an emotional breakdown over there. I will now portal back to the old place and get my son back. Alright, the next chapter, the last chapter? Yeah, the last chapter. Oh, we're gonna end on like, oh no, there's one more. The last, this chapter is like half a page long, and then there's one that's a page long, and that's the end of the fucking book. Because we're not even going to end on a cliffhanger. This isn't even a cliffhanger. This is just a litany of absurd things. Every absurd thing that this author could think of. Is Isla going to turn out to be pregnant as well? Are we going to have a pregnancy reveal at the end? I wouldn't be surprised. And then Tara's going to jump out and be like, actually, I'm your mother, and Grimm is your father. And Oro is God. And Cleo... Who is Cleo? And Cleo is a space alien. Everybody comment below. Comment below what other absurd things you think should be revealed at the end of this book. It turned out that it was all a dream. That Isla was just asleep this entire time. But yes, Isla now remembers, oh yeah, we were married. I did not get the idea that these two were even close to thinking about marriage, but sure. Also, for whatever reason, Grimm refuses. It says that she begged him to take the memory of what she'd done away, and he refused. So it turns out her life alert necklace is essentially her wedding ring.
Which, if you think about it, is extra creepy because he gave it back to her during the centennial, and he did not tell her that it was a marriage object. He basically, like, remarried her against her will and without her knowledge by putting that wedding ring back on her and claiming that all it was a life alert necklace, except for she cannot remove it. So he is essentially putting a tracker on her forever, and also a symbol that they are married that she doesn't even know about and did not consent to, and it just reads as very creepy to me.
And then it's the next chapter called Truth. So of course, after these 8 million stupid revelations, Isla is like, there's only one thing I can do to stop all of the bloodshed. Kill everyone by going with Grimm through the portal. Isla, that doesn't make sense. Remember how if Grimm uses the portal, everybody dies? So you're not actually saving, because she's looking at the battle and she's like, everyone's dying. And I'm like, that's great. But you're not actually saving everyone if you go with Grimm. You understand that, right? Oh my god, this ending. Just, piece de resistance to a nonsense burger of a book. This is like a triple-decker burger of nonsense, quite frankly. So at first I'm like, is she gonna stab herself at the last minute? Like she's gonna pretend to go with Grimm and then be like, no, dead. But no, she just turns to Oro and says, I love you, Oro, but I love him too. And then it says, and because of his flair, he knew it was true. So she just left with Grimm.
Was not just bad, it was a shit show.
So presumably in the next book, Isla and Grimm portal to the old world and kill everyone. Although probably that will turn out to be a lie as well. Because this author could retcon anything at any time. She doesn't care. She retcons indiscriminately. Woof. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot. It was maybe a little bit too much for me this evening, but here I am. I had to finish it. I'm not putting this dress on again a second time. Wow. Okay, so the first half of the book was badly written, but it did feel like the author was trying to deal with the threads that she had given herself in book one, trying to do something, maybe taking on board some of the notes that she had received, which she should have received and taken on board before the book was published, but what can we do? And then in the second half, she just went off the fucking rails. I swear she might have used AI to write this, because, like, what was any of that? Just the levels of absurdity just kept stacking and stacking like turtles to heaven. I don't know what you would possibly do with book 3. I don't know how many books her publishers paid for. She clearly thinks there's going to be a book 3. I can't imagine what she has in store for book 3. I can't imagine that she has anything resembling a plan for book 3. I was kind of right though when I guessed that Isla would go with Grimm at the end of this book. I just didn't think it was going to be like the very end of this book. All right, let's see if we have any more on the bingo card, and then I'm gonna go, but I'm sure editing Julian will have more to say. She might try to tell you how she would fix this book, but honestly, I have no idea how you would fix a book like this. Because this isn't a book. This is a brainstorming session. This isn't even a first draft. This is a brainstorming session that has been bound in hardcover. Like, I am always very hesitant to say that a book is a first draft. Like, this reads like a first draft, this reads like a first draft. Because I know what first drafts look like. And most of the time when people say that, they are coming from a place of not knowing what first drafts look like. So, they are incorrect. The book does not read like a first draft. I've seen first drafts, my own and other people's. I know what a mess they actually are. This book is a book that I can confidently say is a first draft. The author did not go back in and do any work. I would bet so much money. If I went up to Alex and I was like, so like how many drafts of Nightbane are there? She'd be like, oh, I just did it in one draft. I'm just that talented. I don't need multiple drafts. I just sent it to my publisher and they thought it was amazing and they published it. Oh my God. It hurts me so much. Okay, yes, we do get to cross off. The star stick is never described. We also get to cross off Isla never has to deal with actually ruling. Do we have another surprise baddie reveal? I don't know. Isla turns out to be the baddie, kind of, a little bit. I'm gonna give it threads from book 1 never came up because I'm certain that there are so many threads that never came up. This book was too busy inventing new threads to do anything with old threads. Oh yeah, info dump. There was an info dump near the end where we just like found out a bunch of stuff. Grimm just was like, by the way, I need to tell you who your father is. Felt you should know. We didn't have fat equals evil because no one was fat. Damaging essay tropes, didn't really have that. Do you think your reader is dumb? At this point, the whole book is a do you think your reader is dumb, because this book is an insult to readers everywhere. I feel stupid that I paid full price for this because I wanted to get it like the day it came out so I could read it for you all. I paid full price and I feel like I was ripped off. I feel like I was tricked. The blurb lied is like the only one that's left. And I suspect it's true, but let me just read the blurb. Let me just go through the blurb really fast and let you know. Yep, for example, Isla finds herself hungry for distraction, preferring to frequent Lightlark's seductive haunts instead of embracing her duties. What seductive haunts? Where was she doing? Like, yeah, she wasn't being a good leader, but at the same time, it wasn't like she was necessarily trying to avoid it. She was just really bad at it. Worse, her fellow rulers haven't ceded victory quietly. No, everybody was fine with her except Cleo, and Cleo just left. Everyone else was like, all hail Isla, new queen of everything. Remember that Soren guy who was around for like 10 minutes and actually didn't turn out to be anything? He just disappeared. He buggered off. Others in Isla's midst who don't believe her ascent to power was earned. Whomst? It could have been Cleo, because she wasn't in Isla's midst. Cleo left at the end of book 1. And yeah, no, a certain death races toward Lightlark and secrets from her past begin to unravel. Isla must weigh her responsibilities to her people against the whims of the most dangerous traitor of all, her heart. Nope! The blurb basically completely lied, although I pity the person who tried to make a blurb for this book, because authors usually don't write their own blurbs. So somebody had to attempt to make a blurb for this book, and like, God bless them. Yeah, this was a disaster. The only things that we didn't get, there's like, we almost got perfect bingo, and that's just because, like, I don't think it was technically a surprise baddie reveal. There were no fat people. There were no unhinged bullies, really? No, yes, there were. I'm gonna call it unhinged bullies because every time that Isla went to Grimm's island, she was immediately attacked. They were just like sensed her and were like, that one, attack her. So yeah, no surprise baddie reveal, no fat equals evil, and no damaging essay tropes, but I'm giving it everything else, so. Wow, okay, I need to go hang out with my husband, who's been being very patient and waiting for me to finish this damn book. I'll leave you in the capable hands of editing Julian, unless she doesn't have anything else to say. But either way, goodbye everyone. God bless. I'm going to take a break from read-alongs for a little while now. Bye.
Hey, it's Editing Julian. I am sure you noticed that this video turned out really freaking long, and I'm going to be surprised if it manages to upload at all. So I'm going to come back if I think about anything more to say about Nightbane in a different video. So look out for that. It may or may not be coming. I don't even know at this point, because my brain has been turned to mush by Nightbane. I'm sure yours has too. I'm sure you understand. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget that I have several books that you can read, and have yourselves an excellent day.
Shun the non-believer! Shun!
But you know who's not a non-believer? My patrons, and also Nigel, who is here on my lap while I'm trying to record this. But who are my patrons? Let's go, in reverse order this time. Ruin Queen of Oblivion, who I have been forgetting for the last couple of times to put in here, and for that I owe them a sincere apology, and they get to go first. Sarah, Lisa, Amanda, Jenny, Savvy, Scribbling Cat, Rennie, Jesper, Zaire, Shelby, Ray, Callison, Anne Sophie, Patrick, Belle, The Unraveled Legion, Light Julie, Hidden Glade, Kit, Maureen, Sophia, Ashley, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Melissa, Afra, Deborah, Rita, Alyssa, Celia, Amanda, Lafone, KJ, Caitlin, Ursula, Robin, Jojo Bookish, Bear, Kirsten, Maria, Mooney, Kohikaro, Kira, Sam, Haley, Julius the Nice Dragon, Pansing Pony, Roma, Ingrid, Veda, 78 kilograms of shade, Kat, Sarah, Saga, Nico, Sunny Shy, Bird Anonymous, July, Martha Baggins, SB Boots. All these people, they are the true believers. Would you like to say anything, Nigel? Get in, everyone. We're going to Candy Mountain.